In the past few years, we've been exposed to terrifying tales of dead MMOs. Accusations of violence, abuse, and even cults in games like Worlds Online. Strange characters in these games, trippy environments, and communities shrouded in mystery mark the public understanding of the modern MMO chat game world. But how much of this is truth versus myths that are blown out of proportion or even intentional misdirection? A dead MMO mystery that has perplexed the community for years now is about a game called Schnell Online. The nature of this game has perplexed both the online MMO and lost media communities for years now. In all likelihood, you heard of Schnell Online from an Expo video. If not there, then there's an, albeit slim, chance that you stumbled across some 4chan posts about it. If you watched the Expo video, Mysteries in Online Video Games, then you know a few things about Schnell. Any trace of it is nearly impossible to find on the internet. It is surreal, strange, and dark, but most importantly, nothing about it is what it seems. Today, I'm bringing new information to light about this perplexing internet mystery. What is Schnell Online? Why was it created? Why is it shrouded in mystery? And most importantly, is it actually a safe haven for dangerous people, like some have claimed? This video will take you on a long journey, and I encourage you to stick through to the very end. Thank you for your attention, and let's get right into it. Our journey today doesn't start with Schnell Online. It starts with a man named Ulven W. In this video, we'll know him by a couple of different names. He also goes by the name Saint, Ulven, and Urotsuki. This character has a bit of a perplexing footprint on the internet. In two of the oldest mentions of Schnell Online, stemming from a 4chan post from 2018, we get two interesting connections to Saint. Let's look at that post. September 4th, 2018. I was recently on one of those conspiracy iceberg threads, and I came across a user mentioning a game based on the dark web called Schnell Online. This game is supposedly used by terrorists and on the darknet. The user provided a screenshot of the game. This image has no other appearances online. Check through reverse image search. This screenshot provides a ClearNet link. Proceeding to this link will take you to a basic web page with a download link for a game called Carcass, also referenced in this screenshot. It's 14 megabytes and I'm supposed to download. Any of you losers want to give it a shot? The image shown here is quite peculiar. We see a screenshot of Schnell Online gameplay. We're in what looks to be perhaps a classroom with a flag of Mexico hanging on the wall and two characters in front of us, Gringo Killer and Yumo Kaksob, which is also the name of a Mayan deity of travel. Their conversation is a bit weird. I don't care if you move to America, you are dead to me. A traitor. Yeah, to be honest. World Peace was talking to me the other day. Don't listen to him. The interface feels a bit dated, for sure. We have the opportunity to type. There's a logo of Schnell Online in the corner, a friends list, and also a tips section, which curiously displays the tip. Upon receiving a letter in the mail from a stranger, cut all contacts with those on Schnell Online. Strange. At the top of the post, there's a link, which if we follow it, leads us to an itch.io page, a website for indie developers to post their creations. It's a game called Carcass, created by one Ulven. This won't be the last time we see Ulven or Saint connected to Schnell. Anyways, this game is very strange. This text-based indie game puts you in front of peculiar characters, some of which look eerily similar to some Schnell Online users. I could narrate the entire game, but for now, all that you need to know is that it's very weird, and contains some very disturbing text. Moving on to the second Schnell connection, there's a comment on this thread which links to a Reddit page all the way back from 2016, being what I believe is the first public mention of Schnell Online. The post mentions an obscurity chart, a precursor to the iceberg trend we all know and love. The game's classic game, 14 ? Roly-polies, Schnell Online, Dongland 2, and Twicefold Ampersand are mentioned. In the comments, a user links us to two gameplay videos, each of which were uploaded by Saint himself on his YouTube page. Both of these games are weird as all get out, but we're starting to see a link between two things: Strange Games and Saint. This will guide the rest of our discourse today. Based on the name, we can be pretty certain that Saint made Carcass. And while there isn't explicit confirmation that he made the other games too, given that he's the only one with footage of them online, he probably did make these other two games. In fact, if we go to his channel, playing weird games is most of what he does, and there are plenty of other games that he probably made, though he does occasionally play games that weren't made by him. So, what does this all have to do with Schnell Online? Well, there was a third key link which used to be on Saint's YouTube channel that is now gone. While the original video may be lost to us, a user re-uploaded this video, which we can see here. The gameplay shows our player with the username UlvinWD chatting with a player named the Dinosaur. And there is a lot to take in here. The gameplay itself is pretty lackluster, showing basically just one room and two characters. Their conversation doesn't reveal much either, and basically revolves around the two characters waiting on a mod to show up. We see some pretty strange and funny tips on the side, and in one shot, the player opens up some sort of menu, with relatively normal attributes such as hobbies, likes, dislikes, residence, favorite pet, length of stay, and murder rate? While this video certainly opened a can of worms, there are many worms in the can. This video raises dozens of questions and provides zero answers. And for the longest time, this has been all of the gameplay of Schnell Online that we had, besides a screenshot provided on that 4chan post. Today, that's still where we stand. This is a weird game, but we have no answers. Anyways, thanks for watching, and make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Just kidding. Technically, up till this point, this is all the gameplay of Schnell that remains online, at least to my knowledge. But I came across a new development. Not really a new development, but a new development to me. By chance, I encountered a source who worked on the project, and well, I was skeptical at the beginning, but they quickly provided proof of their legitimacy. Never before seen GIFs, footage of a game manual, and 2 recordings of extended gameplay footage quickly showed me that this person was an authority on the topic. Let's take a look at some of this stuff. The first GIF I have shows the player entering the rock room, a subsection of the music room. The second shows the same character entering a room labeled Simulation. We don't have much to look at here, and with the quality of these GIFs, I can't make out much of the text. The next video I received is a tad over 2 minutes long, showing gameplay from yet another character. It's a demo build labeled Schnell Online 0.7.5. As opposed to what we've usually seen with labeled and categorized rooms filled with at least a few players, this gameplay showcases a user exploring hallway after hallway after hallway. The user is greeted by some strange sights. Nazi imagery in one room, this strange image of a girl with some Japanese text in another, and finally, a room filled with images of an eye in that hand-drawn Schnell style. Fairly abruptly, the video ends. Another gameplay video I came across shows 15 minutes of the Schnell Arcade, a collection of minigames that was present somewhere in Schnell Online. We only see 2 of these games, a perverse version of Pac-Man and some sort of card game. Let's take a look at this Pac-Man video first. In the Schnell art style, you control a Pac-Man moving away from just one slow-moving ghost, but upon clearing every level, you get a strange message from the Pac-Man you play as.
Guys behind fake electronic buzzing and consume the pellets endlessly. The pain never ends. Crushed by sharp pixely ghosts that lead into the void and run for my life. I feel every instance. Over 30 years of endless torture in the game. Fan games, bootlegs, and expansions on the original idea. I live and die constantly. Even down the depths of the rabbit hole. Get the key. Ghosts racing fast. Cherries and other fruit far from home. You won't save me.
Some of these are actually pretty funny.
It's over, I'm done. The creator has given me the option to quit, but this is only the removal of one knife out of thousands, and I'm still grateful. You let this happen, but you will not invade my life anymore. I'm out. See you. Just leaving.
The next game has some strange messages at the beginning. Warning: this game contains true death. If you win, you will be granted the Hat of Cards. If you lose, you will be sent to purgatory. Do you comply? The minigame itself is very strange. The cards match no cards I've ever seen before, the dialogue from the dealer is strange, and the rules don't seem clear at all. Before the video ends, using some score system which I cannot even remotely understand, the player ties and then wins. The next and final video I received is potentially the strangest of them all. It shows my source examining some files from Schnell Online. We see quite a few interesting icons at the beginning of this video. NoSoul.png, Puff.png, Scimitar.png. These all match the art style of the game, but seem completely strange and unrelated. After this, the video pans to the user opening the manual for the game. Now I only have the video of the manual, I don't have the actual file, so this is the only way we can make out anything from the text, but we do learn quite a few interesting things from reading it. The creator's sense of humor is impeccable. Thank you for downloading Schnell Online. Schnell Online is a newly created 3D chatting program for all ages, all entities, for anyone. Russia, Nunavut, Pickering, Pyongyang, Ceres, another timeline, it doesn't matter where you are or what you are. We offer chatting for all beings. Starting off, you may be a bit overwhelmed. Where am I? What's happening? And our favorite, am I still alive? We don't have much advice to give a new user other than simply follow the road. We also get a bit more information about those zany avatars we saw earlier. Every Schnell Online user gets a special avatar for their chatting experience. That means you can't change yours, ever. It's unique. If you ever see two identical avatars, those are most likely users without a soul, and therefore they won't have a name either. Going further, we learn a little bit about chatting as well. Chatting is something we do every day in our lives. However, in Schnell Online, it's more like a secret tradition. If you're a new user, you've most likely noticed that you can't chat yet. Due to the amount of dead spirits trying to get their hands on our precious product, we must restrict you to chatting only a week after playing. Once you can chat about whatever. It really doesn't matter. We don't care about your beliefs, and we won't sell you out to the government. Schnell Online servers are run on a small separatist nation on the tip of Perry Land, a place more free than the United States. Can you believe it? There are more sections which address your inventory, armor, and weapons, which notably mention the fact that there are enemies and a currency system. There are pets as well, and curiously, a section called Death. Death is the strange force that pulls your soul from your body and gives it an exponential ascension. Once your soul travels far enough upwards, it is either sent to another body or teleported to the outer darkness. Do not be alarmed if you experience death while chatting in Schnell Online. It happens to everyone. We see some strange art of a pigman. Alright. But before the video ends, we see some miscellaneous art and quotes from users of the game. Schnell Online is a great way to teach your children the horrors of the real world, and in that case, I love it. The manual is a trip in and of itself. We could definitely observe a sense of humor from the developers, but we still don't know much about the nature of this game. Well, that, my friends, is what I'm about to reveal. Schnell Online is not at all what it seems. I don't even think it knows what it is. Its identity is unfinished, its presentation confusing. Let's start out with how this game came to be. This game was created by Saint, like the other games shown on his channel. Saint was known for lurking around on worlds.com and made quite a few worlds on there. You could see gameplay of these worlds on his YouTube channel, where keen eyes will also notice references to Schnell Online, such as a reference to the dinosaur in the Schnell gameplay footage, and another player named Cake1234566. There's plenty of creepy things to talk about here with regards to worlds.com, and Saint's time on there. There's a connection between Saint and Nexialist, who's known for leading a pseudo-cult on worlds.com, but that's a story for another day. Anyways, in the process of developing worlds on worlds.com, Saint made plenty of friends and brought people along to make games and these other experiences. Saint has a pattern of pretending to come across games and then goes through steps confidently when he records the gameplay on YouTube. He's absolutely the developer in these cases, and he's absolutely the developer of Schnell Online. At some point, he conceived the idea of Schnell. Naturally, it was inspired by worlds.com, but stylistically, it was heavily inspired by a game called Goblet Grotto. You could see similarities in the UI, the meaningless tips, and the art style. Saint acted as the sole developer, but did bring others along for the ride, asking them for input. These were people he met on online MMOs, primarily worlds.com like I mentioned. He's been described as a confident developer who perhaps enjoyed the attention and admiration from members of his community. Anyways, the earliest build of Schnell Online came to be around 2015. The game was playable for some time, but in late 2016, the project was abandoned. So how come Schnell received the negative rap it has? How could a game that was only available for a little over a year accumulate such a dangerous player base? That, my friends, is the key to our mystery. Like I said, Schnell Online is not at all what it seems. The game is pumped to the brim with misdirection and cannot itself even be trusted. Even the name is a lie. Why is that? Because Schnell Online is a single-player game. You heard that right. Schnell Online isn't even online. If that's the case, then what's the point? Why is it shrouded in darkness and mystery, and given the same terrified treatment associated with cults and dangerous communities in dead MMOs? Well, that has to do with a lot of things. Saint's intention when creating this game was to trick you into thinking that you are playing an online game. All of the characters you see in this game have scripted behaviors and dialogue. They aren't other people. That's why in many of these videos, the only player you see moving is yourself. Furthermore, in the final build of the game, you, the player, actually can't type at all. And there's good reason for that. Nobody was there to respond to you. The idea was to make a new player think that they hadn't been on Schnell long enough to be able to type, and they would only hear other players' conversations. So the talk about this game harboring terrorists is just utter garbage. But where'd that stigma come from? The ultimate intention behind Schnell Online was this. You would hear about the game on 4chan where Saint himself would be tipping people off to its existence. You'd then have to go download it, but there wasn't a ClearNet link available. You would have to go to the dark web to get a hold of the game. You'd then download it and play it, where you'd walk around a strange world, entering different rooms and seeing different scripted interactions. These interactions, as well as the tips, occasionally would all contain clues that pointed you towards puzzles that you could solve. You would eavesdrop on other players and learn from them. When you solve puzzles, you'd end up getting a password of some kind which you could input to enter a new room. In each room, you'd encounter more characters, having darker and darker encounters the further you went. To what end? Well, eventually you would land yourself in very, very dark places. You would encounter characters talking about things like Nazism, hiring hitmen, and making drug deals. The idea was that, for a moment, you would think that you'd stumbled onto a dangerous place on the dark web. At this point, I'm speculating because the game was probably unfinished, but it's likely that the whole point of the game was just to scare you. Eventually, you would realize that the game was never really online. In fact, if you knew what you were doing, you could probably uncover that fact pretty early on. But for some people, getting through this game would be a harrowing but incredible experience. Also, a lot of details exist just to throw you off. For example, the murder rate means literally nothing. Most of the tips mean literally nothing as well. You are screaming, you are screaming, you are screaming. It was all bogus. It was just for fun, but it's all to sell the illusion that you've stumbled onto some strange community. To make up for the fact that you aren't interacting with anyone, which would give the true nature of Schnell away, you're just told and gaslit constantly that you don't understand what's going on. There is also Schnell Arcade. At some point, and I don't know how it works specifically, you could access the minigame portion which contained the games I showed earlier. Details from those would likely contribute to the puzzles as well. I don't have specific examples of puzzles, and I honestly don't have much more information or footage than what I've shown you already. A lot of this is speculation, but what I've mentioned up till now was all fact. Schnell was never online, and it was never released, and it was never played by a grand audience. Anything you ever saw of this game was intentionally leaked by Saint, who's very protective of Schnell. Even his inner circle didn't know much about this game, and very few had copies of it. So why was it canceled? Well, we can't answer that for sure, but we could speculate a few reasons. The first is that to actually sell the illusion that you walked into a deep web server, you would need people using horrific slurs, dropping heavily inappropriate or illegal imagery, and it might have just been too much for the development team. A source suggested to me that an idea for one room was to have an actual bomb-making class. Schnell Online needed to feel illegal if the illusion was to be sold, and that's hard to pull off. Furthermore, regardless of the legality of the content, this is also just a hard angle to pull. Convincing people who, if they're going on the deep web, have some degree of technological literacy, that they are playing an online game when they really aren't, is hard to do. Things like pacing the typing from these characters would have to be perfect. Conversations couldn't be repeated. There's just so much that could go wrong if you actually tried to convince people that this was real. It was probably just too hard. So now you know the truth about Schnell Online. Is that everything though? Well, there are still burning questions. Most critically, can you even play Schnell? The answer to that is yes and no. Can you physically play the game? Yes, it does exist, but the only person that we can undoubtedly confirm has a copy of it is Saint himself. While I'm aware of other people who have played the game, it's not widely available anywhere. So unless Saint decides to release this out of the kindness of his heart, we probably won't see much more Schnell gameplay anytime soon. But speaking of, why hasn't he considered releasing the game, or even dropping more footage of it? In all likelihood, he just enjoys the mystery. There wasn't a large audience for Schnell at all until Nexpo made the insanely popular video covering it, at which point he probably just appreciated the attention. Even though it might make sense for him to drip feed information from different sources on the internet to keep the mystery going, it's honestly better for him to just stay quiet. In doing so, he has kept the hunt for Schnell Online alive. Although, hopefully with the release of this video, other people who may have some info about the game, or maybe even have a copy of any build of it, might come forward. This video isn't a tell-all. It's more of an update, a clarification. The hunt for Schnell Online still exists. Questions are still present. We don't fully understand everything about everyone involved. We don't know the plot of this game. We don't know how the puzzles worked. We don't know how it was supposed to end, and we don't know if it was ever really finished. But most importantly, we can't play it. I hope that this video helps with that. I hope some people may come forward with whatever they have, or the expressed interest in Schnell may actually convince those involved to release a build of the game. There's a lot more here than meets the eye, and this is a topic that I would love to come back to. Thank you for joining me today while we examined this crazy mystery. I hope to get more answers in the future, and I also hope you enjoyed this video. Have a great night, everyone, and let me know what you think about this kind of content. There's a lot more to games like this, including Worlds.com as a whole, and it's something that I may visit again if you enjoyed this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this, and if you'd like to be a part of the Seed Butter community, you can join my Discord, the link to which is in the description of this video. Thanks again, and good night.